So this is a plat hanzo on Hollywood, and the first thing I want to talk about is sonic arrow usage. When you're playing defense, you want to pretty much use sonic arrow off cooldown on these chokes, just so both you and your team, know in advance where, sort of where and when the enemy are pushing. Pretty much, like no reason not to go for it. Like especially right now, like you can sonic arrow this doorway, you can sonic arrow this back wall here. You'll get info on main choke. You'll get info on this left choke. But doubly in a situation like this, right, where if we go back a little bit, you've just seen their entire team cross left side, and then you can't see them again. And these sonic arrows on defense are something you really need to be looking out for. And it's just for something that's so easy to do, it's quite sloppy to miss. Yeah, so here you've gone down a few picks. You're backing up to point. Pretty normal stuff. I think this dragon here is pretty good. I think. Yeah, like it's okay. Like it's going to stop the enemy team from pushing. It's going to give you time to back up to point. It also, splits the Hammond off from his team. Pretty good. But again, with the Sonics, I'd really like to have seen you Sonic this corner, maybe in like a couple of seconds time. Because once your Orisa dies, there's pretty much no way that you're going to be able to, peek the enemy team properly. So getting the info on when they're rounding this corner so you can get the early shots on them is really important. And, again, it's one of those situations where, like, there's no real reason to hold it. And like the enemy team are going to be trying to push around, so you definitely need to be looking out for these sonic arrows. So here you start going for this retake, and you're in a really good position. Right here on this corner, it's perfect for you, and it's good for a few reasons, right? It's you have really good LOS on point. You also have a lot of cover here on this corner, and if these people on point want to push you and deal damage to you, you have a lot of space behind you where you can back up. If they do push you as well, it's going to start splitting LOS to their backline. This building here is going to stop them getting the support and damage that they need from their backline. And it's also going to mean that you're sort of splitting them like 180, both between you and, the people in Cafe and the respawns, your respawns that are going to be coming through Cafe. So this position is really good for you. But I really don't like how sort of far out you peek. These are exact same angles for damage you can get back on that corner, but you're much safer being on that corner, and it's probably more helpful to your team as well. So I really don't like how far out you come here. However, you do come out, and the Hanzo hasn't seen you. It doesn't matter that you're 99 health right now. If anyone sees you, you're dead basically. But you come out and you get this really good kill on the Hanzo. This basically means you can retake, not easily, but quite easily, because they have no like sustained damage, so it's going to carry them through the fight. And if you're peeking out this wide just for the Hanzo, it's actually a really good play. Because you sort of identified that they need him to win the fight. And going back to that Sonic arrow, if you had to put that Sonic up there and you knew he was there, peeking out this wide to kill him is a really good play. But this fight carries on, you push point, really good, you force Batiste, then you back up, Sonic's the doorway, back up, really good. Very difficult for them to push you here with a Sonic here. Really good play here. But what I don't like is how long it takes you to peek back out and start doing damage. As Hanzo, you really need to be thinking, all the time, like, how aggressively can I play right now? Because you just have to be... It doesn't matter how many shots you hit as Hanzo, if you're hitting, or if you have the chance to hit a lot more shots, right? You want to be taking as aggressive an angle as you can. It's just going to help you get a lot more kills. And, the way to think, how aggressively can I play right now, is to think about how much sort of pressure the enemy team's taking. So right now after you go on point, right here, you push point, they're all looking at you, they want to fight you, Batiste pops his field, Zarya starts chasing you, you back up. Right now you can't really do much because they're all focusing on you. But then your Orisa jumps on point and pops Bongo, and you can immediately think, like, the entire enemy team right now is going to be looking at this Orisa and thinking like, oh my god, we're getting bongoed, we have to, rush her, take out the Bongo. And, you should really realize, now's my chance, I can hit them from behind straight away. I just don't like how long it takes you to sort of realize this. And if you want the opportunity to like hit more shots and, pop off and turn these fights more often, you really need to be, ready for these situations where like, maybe you kite for a bit, escape the enemy, and then suddenly they're distracted by something else, and, now it's your time to go in. So, you do alright this fight, like your team and you, but I definitely like to have seen you sort of jump out and peek that a bit earlier. Like, it doesn't hurt you at all, this fight, but it's just sort of a sign of something that you're not really looking out for. And although, this whole VOD was sort of a wipe from your team. I sort of have to pick out these situations where it looks like you're not really looking for something that will hurt you in other games. Yeah, so here again, similar situation. You haven't lost any picks, but your team's backed up to point, and you go for this dragon here. And I don't really like this dragon. I think it's just a little bit too early, and it makes me think maybe you misread this situation. Because dragon, you pretty much always want to use after the enemy team has committed to a fight. And here, if you'd thought about it a bit more, you would have realized they haven't really committed yet. And the way to sort of read these fights and predict them is to think mostly about the comp matchup. Like what is your comp gonna do versus the enemy comp? And if you get used to thinking about that, you'll realize really fast how these fights are gonna go down. So if we look at your team, you have a lot of backline poke. You have a really good damage pressure from your backline. All of these heroes are really good at it. And you also have the Orisa, which synergizes with that pretty well. So, your team's going to stay pretty stationary on point and just put out loads of damage stats down mid. It's pretty much the only way this comp's going to play. If we look at the other team, you see they're sort of the opposite. They don't really have any poke damage. Maybe a little bit from Batiste, maybe a little bit from these three heroes. But mostly, all they can really do is jump straight in. Doom, Genji, Hammond, they're going to jump in with Zarya bubble, they're going to try and kill you. That's pretty much the only way they can fight. So, you as Hanzo need to be thinking, how can I set up in a way that's going to, make it much more difficult for them to, jump in and kill us all. And if you think about how to use your dragon, you need to think like, if I put my dragon before these players have committed, then they're not going to do anything, they're just going to wait. And if we go back, we'll see, a little bit further back. If we go back, we see Genji's just jumped you, used all of his kit to push you off high ground. So he's not going to do anything for the next 8 seconds. Hammond's in, you poke him out, he goes out, he needs to get healing. He's not going to do anything for the next few seconds either. And although Zarya does come on the corner, here you see she pops bubble for charge, and then she's not going to commit here because none of her team's here. And it's, I don't want to sound like I'm being too harsh, because that Zarya did look like she was pushing point. But if you had thought a little bit more about the comp matchup and a little bit more about their backline's only going to try and commit after their front line's in, you would have delayed this dragon a little bit more, and I guarantee you it would have done a lot more than it did in this situation here. So definitely try and look at a bit more for the idea of this comp matchup and think, what way do I need to play in that's going to be most effective versus the enemy team? And that's just going to affect all these things about how you use your abilities, how you use your ult, and it just seems like something you sort of missed a bit this fight. Yeah, so here's a minor thing, but it's you play up top, you're in a really good position, you get the kills. I don't know why you don't go more aggressive here. I don't know why you don't jump across this rooftop and try and chase the kills. Again, it's that idea of, how aggressively can I play in this situation? The further forward you play, the more opportunities for kills you're going to get. Probably the easier it is going to be to hit those shots. And you should really, be aware that, half the team is basically dead at this point, I think. Yeah, like both the DPS are down. There's no one else on your screen. You could have, really easily pushed him. I don't know why I didn't go for it. And as well as that, I hate this dragon. I hate this dragon for, similar reasons to before. You should definitely be aware at this point that half their team is dead. And it's not just about that. It's about the players that you've got on your screen. Was it Batiste, Mercy, Hammond? None of these players can really, do anything to your team. They don't really have any aggressive potential to your team in this situation. So you pulling Dragon here, sure, it forces them off cart, but they weren't really doing anything in the first place, so it just ends up being a bit of a waste. It's not like they've committed up far enough that that you're going to kill them or zone them out into your team. And it's also not like you're, countering any pressure they're putting on you. Like maybe if Zarya was there and she just grabbed you, like this dragon would be really good because it would stop them from following up. Instead, these three players were just sort of minding their own business and you sent the dragons their way. So, it's really important to, really save these abilities for their best usage. Yeah, okay, so the rest of this VOD is just you sitting on high ground and clicking heads. It can be quite difficult to talk about hanzo VODs when the player is just sort of killing everything on their screen. But I've tried to pick out some of the main things. Maybe next time choose a VOD that you struggled a little bit more in. The main things are, though, just going to be thinking about pressure a little bit more. There were quite a few times where you could have played more aggressively, but you didn't because you weren't really thinking that much about, how much pressure the enemy team was taking. Similarly, keep thinking about those comp matchups. If you'd thought a little bit more about, what the enemy team was actually going to do in these situations, and a lot of the time it was pretty obvious if you'd thought about the comps, your dragons would have gotten a lot more value. Yeah, but in general, if every one of your games is like this VOD, then you just need to put the hours in, and you will keep just winning games.